Hi, my friends and family. I'm Trey Smith, and you're watching Trey's Timeless 15 Minutes of Explain on Trey's Myths and Tunes channel on YouTube. Come on in, the show's about to start. Guaranteed to tear your fake ass worldview apart. Today's show's called Cost is Arbitrary. Towns are little worlds. Blood clot nanobots shot through the heart, and you're to blame, 'cause you give love a bad name. You want them to play their part so they don't notice you try to steal it all. It's so insane when people don't see the sun in California for 15 days. Can't you see the Devil's Club are all just so insane? Trying to tell you it's altruism to take the grand mad scientist experiment. That's why the devil's losing everything, trying to steal it all in the end. Cost is arbitrary. Towns are little worlds. This is real obvious if you travel, if you look around, if you're a deal hunter, even especially morality levels can be totally different in a different state, in each town or neighborhood even. Excuse me. Poverty is locational. Okay, so the big boys, again, with the insertion of their city managers and the recent iteration of the crazy real estate game up for this county, for example, where the average home is $1 million, and in the sexy towns, of course, they plotted out and made the more cancerous industrial zones the place for the poor, the tenement housing, and so forth. So the enslaved masters, and who also took over the grid or created the grid and the Nephilium reversal grid and what we call the electrical grid of the towns, the grid system. Of course, also took over the stargates, did black magic rituals on all of them, and so this is all, of course, related to the arbitrary cost and the government rules, the sexiness or powerful qualities of a vortex or energy zone, such as Santa Cruz. My friend John Cood, who I call the tall, dark Scorpio shaman from Arkansas, because he told me once, you can't get it all from one town. You know, the Scorpio eagle, he understood intuitively. You know, especially if you have that fixed zodiac sign, you need a vision quest. You have to go on a walkabout, or just at least go over to the next town, go to the poor neighborhood next to you or the rich neighborhood next to you, and simply observe the vibrational frequency, the feeling tone, and how they're all so different. Thach Nhat Hanh got somewhat well known for walking meditation, perhaps walking with your backpack with your sleeping bag might be the greatest meditation to travel or do a walkabout meditation, to change your, again, to see how cost is arbitrary, and to see how each region is like a little world because of the aggregate, because of the collective agreements and styles, economics of that region. It will teach you so much about how much of a beautifully changeable or mediumistic thing Mother Earth and humans can be, both. Um, but here in Santa Cruz, California, the first thing most people notice is what I call the gouging pageant, or but then, if you know people, especially if you know farmers or storekeepers, you can, or know which store to go to, like the discount store. You can find greater deals in Santa Cruz on goods or foods or cannabis than anywhere. You just have to know where to go. So it's interesting. The idea for this video on that tip came from my often daily visits to the next town over, Capitola, to 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 upload and work on some things at the library, and of course to visit the store, several food, cannabis, and utility like sporting goods stores there. In all cases, I might pay one half to 2/3 as much for something as it would cost in Santa Cruz. So the point of this video is to say, look, it's not just thinking outside of the box. It's also vastly locational. And if you don't have this deal hunter in your blood like I do, then you might miss the fact that you're a slave because you haven't looked far enough to find the deals or to meet your financial needs simply by searching your region, for example, in this case. Because there's such a vast wealth of resources just in this county for the poor and the rich. So there again, we have the different laws. Proposition 64 made the legalization of cannabis, if you're over 21 in the state of California, made it so that each town and county can make different rules. So that, of course, adds more to this personalization of the regions, and the anarchists call it statism, to obey or believe in the states. I see we have statism, townism, countyism, neighborhoodism, all these isms. So they're going to influence us through epigenetics, okay, of course. So this video also comes from, informed from the fact that several days ago, I was pulled over in Capitola on my way to the library. Two handsome young men, police officers with beards, and I tried to be polite with the police, and so, but of course, since I had done nothing wrong, I had to have a little bit of an attitude, and so he says, where I pulled you over? I said, I don't know. He said, you were riding down the road in the vehicle turning lane, which I was, and I said, well, I didn't know that was against the law. And I was just trying to flow with traffic. And he says, well, it's against the law. You have to stay in the bicycle lane until you turn. And of course, the first thing in my mind is it the hole in this jacket that the man, guardian angel in Colorado, gave me? That I look like a homeless guy. I look disheveled enough with this long hair that you feel like you're so bored that you have nothing else to do. And he said, you mind if we check you? He said, could I see your ID? You mind if we check your record, and then I'll just let you go? I said, okay. Then he says, where were you going? No, he said, were you going home? I said, no. He said, fair enough. And so I told him how when polite drivers are stopping to let me cross the road on my bicycle or walking, if I'm not in a hurry, I'll shoo them by because cars are about to hit them, and then I understand that they want to keep the flow of traffic going, but that state law is crazy because it could cause an accident. And then I basically said, in Santa Cruz, especially since they shut down the little free junkie town by the courthouse, you have tweakers and mentally ill alcoholics and junkies literally laying almost anywhere in the city proper. And actually, several days before this happened, I was riding on SoCal Road, almost on the Pacific Avenue, downtown Santa Cruz, with no light, and it just got dark. And two Santa Cruz cops were walking by, and the Duppies, the Zetas, had done their masterful job of having us both, all three of us, somewhat distracted, not paying full attention, which is what happens when you're not being really clearly paying full attention to the now moment. And I almost ran my bicycle into these two cops. And the police officer goes, oh, excuse me, sorry. And I was slightly astonished that they didn't at least tell me to get a light or ask me to pull over and turn on my light or something, check my ID, that they apologize. And I thought about the heat that the dark side, through the fake progressive movement, has given the cops through the fake, thing that happened in 2020. So the stage drama from 2020. So whereas in Capitola, I also had two attractive young women police in Capitola pull me over for not having a light on my bicycle about a month ago. So twice in a month I've had to deal with 4 Capitola cops pull me over for basically, no victim, no crime, arbitrary rules. So that's also what made me inspire this video, was how the laws in the police force in every single municipality, every single town could be drastically different. How crazy is that? And these guys had beards. It's the year 2023, and these guys had beards, and they were harassing me for no reason, but because I looked like somebody easy to harass, I guess, But then in the end of the conversation, they said, well, we would more. When I told them about the people trying to stop in the middle of traffic to let me cross, and I said, well, at least you're trying to inform people about safety. That's what I try to do too. So, Mark Passio calls it de facto Satanism, just when you only care about yourself, or you just obey the rules and you only think about yourself, that leads to the prison planet. But when you travel to another region where people are more respectful or friendly or less, or more harmful or more violent or less violent, traveling gives you a different perspective. Almost anyone, there's no one who would dispute that, right? Real estate is not real estate. Sai Baba told my friend Brian in his cult. Well, what is the real estate then? Respectful, free, clean, harmless sovereignty. I clean up my trash, take care of the land, be respectful, follow the non-aggression principle, and then you have real estate. Insofar as you don't get busted in any arbitrary Nazi negative alien laws or rules, and breaking their arbitrary code, of course, but you're not hurting anyone else or yourself, then you have the real state of awareness, your divine Christos in a human form. Mark Passio also said today, I was watching his presentation, if you truly love yourself, you'll never try to control others. This from a Leo who was a former high priest in the Satanic Society, man. So God bless him for saying that truth, especially being a Leo. The availability of jobs, lovers, housing in cities and towns is another thing that's so arbitrary and so different than what you might think once you explore it. For example, when I was up for about 4 years, almost 4 years up in Bonny Doon, California, it's an unincorporated region with no businesses and no legal box stores. More than once, several times I had daily labor landscaping jobs. Well, this one I met the guy when I was hitchhiking, and he gave me that. So I got jobs because I was in this little small town up on the top of the mountain because there was no one else there because the guy was a really hard-working engineer during the day, worked all the time, and he didn't have any way of meeting anyone, to do the job. So they're giving me a ride hitchhiking, also a surfer. He paid me fat to do some landscaping, and so you'll find that the rules and the laws, the costs are all arbitrary. The cost of rent, property tax, what you're going to pay for something is going to be completely different in a different town. And it's almost amazing when you first notice this, how different costs of things are everywhere. If you travel, of course, it expands your awareness. Of course, this is going to be vastly different in countries and states. And when traveling, you see past the hand to new living. You see past the limits that you set in your mind.